Are you hardcore? Look, I know, that was stupid. It's hard coming up with the intros to the... You try doing it. As a matter of fact, you tell me what to say, I'll say it in the next one. Alright, so I have a set here of the QOR Earth set watercolors. I've wanted this set for years. Since it first came out. I saw when it first... This is a long time ago. It doesn't have a date on here because it was manufactured recently. Not when it came out. I don't know what I'm looking for. So the reason that I wanted these the most is because these have something called Aquazol in them. I think that's how you say it. Yes, that is how you say it. Now it says the Aquazol, it's an exclusive binder. It's not the gum arabic that every other watercolor uses. And it's supposed to give greater intensity and clarity. Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. They're bright and vibrant colors. They're gorgeous colors, actually. I've already looked at them, but I'm not saying that they're going to be more vibrant than any other color or any other thing. But that's not the point. The point is, the Aquazol is supposed to also... They don't mention it here. I'm looking for it. It's not saying it, but when they first came out, they said, no, this binder lets the color just take off through the water. So it helps it move better, and it spreads better. So I figured a wet into wet wash, what better thing to do with these paints than to go into a wet wash and see if it pops. If it starts flying all over the place and starts spreading like crazy, that's what we're looking for. So I'll swatch these out, and I'm going to do a wet and wet swatch too. That way you can see if it actually does that, and then we're going to do a painting. I'm going to do it all in one video this time. Now this package, it's supposed to be, let me take this off. It's supposed to be like its own palette, and these are supposed to be mixing wells on the inside. Those are all the bubbles on the outside. It's supposed to be mixing wells. I'm not going to use this. I have something else to use. You'll see. Immediately, I find something that angers me, and that is a swatch sheet that tells you all the colors, and none of them are going to look like this. So that garbage, we're throwing that away immediately. The tubes are little, and I used full pans, so I've already put them into something. So there's a little bit left here, very little, but the rest of it is filled up in that full pan, and they're probably going to dry and shrink a little bit. I'm going to have to use that little bit anyway, so there's about enough for a full pan in there. It's 5 milliliters, so that's what it is. But it was not an expensive set, so I'll have an affiliate link for it. Of course I will, because I'm on YouTube and that's what we do. I'm excited. I've wanted to try these for so long, so let's get into it. Okay, so I got this butcher's tray, and in case you don't know what that is, it is a metal pan that's coated in this ceramic coating so that you can put watercolor on it. It kind of blends nicely. It is a little bit elevated in the center, which means the water's going to run a little bit here. I don't know if they're all like that, but this one is. And then I put these paints into full pans here, and I still have a little bit left in the box. So if I use some of it up, I can put it in here. I'm very excited about this because I don't have a Naples yellow or a Venetian red or a raw umber anywhere on any palette that I have. So this is exciting for me. We have some new colors, and I'm going to try them out here. Now, a lot of time, and what I'm going to do with this tray is put some paint in it and use it as a wet and wet palette. That's fine. But if you have these are wet. I'm not going to do that. If you take any other pan and you put a little magnet on it, it will stick. It's wonderful. See, it'll stick to the side. It'll stick because it's a metal pan. It's just coated in a ceramic coating so that you can blend very well with it. Okay, now technically these are wet. I know that they're wet because I just poured them and they're not dry yet. I will have to make a separate report on when I use them again another time and let you know, hey, look, these are now, this is how they are. And I think I did it in reverse order because that's what I do sometimes. But anyway, I'm just going to take a little bit of paint, put it down here so you can see. See how nice that is? It doesn't bead up. It just spreads very nicely. That's how this tray is supposed to work. Very happy about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a concentrated wash here if I can do that. Get a little bit more paint in there. And There you go. Now you can get a little bit more concentrated with this, but it doesn't get, it's not very dark. It's basically a yellow ochre. That's what you're looking at here. Now the other thing I want to do though is to put it wet into wet, because I'm going to do that with every color from now on. I want to see what it does and just how it reacts. So I'll put just a little bit of water here, and then I'm going to take some paint. I'll get some full strength paint in there and just kind of spread it around a little bit and see what it does. We're going to go back through this again. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to talk about all the details of each paint, but for now I'm just going to put these in here. And I like the Naples yellow. It's like a yellow ochre kind of color. It's a little bit different. I'm going to show you. I'll put it next to a yellow ochre so you can see it. This is a transparent brown oxide. I have never used a color. I've never used this color, I don't think. I don't know what I would use it in. It's a very orangey brown color, which is wonderful. Nothing wrong with that. I like the color. I like that it's that kind of a color. Let's see there. It was a little bit on the brush. Don't worry about that. Oh, it's one of those spreaders where you just hit it and it just pops everywhere, which is great if you're doing some wet into wet, some loose watercolor. That's a great color to have right there. I would definitely recommend that. That's exactly what you want when you're trying to do that kind of painting. Now, where the Naples yellow is a little bit more opaque because of that white that's in there, the transparent brown oxide is just that. It's extremely transparent. You can see it soaked right up into the page, but it looks pretty good right there. Now, Venetian red I also do not have on any palette. I have, now listen, I have the Indian red, but the Venetian red is a different animal. It's much more red. It's the same pigment, just like it always is. It's always the same pigment, but it's much more red. I just want to try and get that a little bit lighter. There we go. And then I'm going to try and do a little wet into wet here with it. Of course, with some more paint still stuck in my brush. Don't worry about it. Okay, so that one seems to pop a little bit too. Not as much. Oh, there it goes. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, see, so that's something that you definitely want if you're using that kind of wet into wet. You're doing that kind of thing. You want that kind of result. That's kind of what you want. Okay, now this indigo was a little bit of a letdown because it's only a light fast 2, and I think that's because of the PV19, but let's see what I can do with it here. It's a pretty color. Yeah, definitely a nice color. This is definitely a muted palette here. So this, like I said, it's the earth tone palette, and it's supposed to be a little bit more muted, and it is. It's very, very, very muted. It's a very nice palette, though. I like it. You know, a lot of indigos look a little bit more of a reddish blue, and this one, it is a reddish blue. It has the PV19 in it, but it's not. It's more like just a dark, stormy blue, which is a little bit different than like the Daniel Smith version. Oh, that just takes right over. That just pops as well. See, that's when you see that take over and just pops into the water. That's just a wonderful thing. For me, it is anyway. Is that I like the movement when it starts to flow in the water. Now that is, from what I understand, that is because of the binder of this paint. It's the Aquazol, I believe they call it. And it's the QOR Watercolors has the Aquazol in it instead of the normal binders that everyone else has. They decided to be a little different, and that's what they ended up doing. And because of that, it kind of flows very nicely. I don't know why I've never used this before. It says that they're made in New York. I was also made in New York, so we have something in common here. And sap green, it's a sap green. It's a little different. I want to put it next to the Daniel Smith and see what it looks like. But it's a pretty color. it may lean a little bit more yellow. Or I could just have a really bad memory. See, I don't use the sap green from Daniel Smith very much because I have the original formula and I only use it for special occasions. I don't really, if I want something really nice, then that's what I do. Yeah, that's because of that binder. It's just every time you put a dot down, it just pops open. So that's what that's happening there. But definitely much more yellow. There's a PR 101 in there. I guess maybe just to tone it back a little bit. I don't know, maybe dull it down a little bit. But that PR 101, that's strange that that's in there. We'll go through those. And finally, we have a raw umber. Now, I do not have a raw umber in my... It's almost like it's not working. What happened? I don't have a raw umber in my palette. So, this is good for me. It's kind of... I want to say it's a mix between like a sepia and a... like an EF brown iron oxide or something like that. It's very similar. I'm going to put down the wet and wet here, see what happens there. I'm assuming it's going to do a similar thing. Yes, it does the similar thing where it just pops open. So here's my... Not all paint does that, by the way. That's not a normal thing. I mean, certain colors do more than other colors, but not all colors do that. That's a very unique thing here, that this is popping that much in the water and just like spreading and just fanning immediately. It could be because it's wet paint, but I think it's just doing it because it's doing it, and so that's a nice thing. Now let's get a little bit closer here so we can point out some details. Okay, they're also going to use some weird colors for me, so I'm going to be saying some things that are probably not that great. Anyway, this Naples yellow, this PBR 24 here is chrome antimony titanate. Now, antimony that's a plant, but so maybe it's organic. Maybe, I don't know. So anyway, now this pigment, if you're worried, this pigment here is considered toxic because it's non-soluble, but it's considered... After like oral exposure, they consider it negligible for toxicity. But if you have, I'm sure it by itself, it is a toxic chemical. So if you're sensitive to things, you might not want this color on your palette. I understand that. I get that. And someone else pointed out when I was talking about these, where you're just looking at, you know, the light fastness on when you're looking at pigment value. But someone else said, hey, yeah, you're also looking at toxicity. That was a very good point. Thank you for pointing that out. And so that's one of those things. Luckily, the PBK7, that's just lamp black. That's a carbon black is what that is. So that added into there, I guess, just to darken it up just a little bit. It can't be much in there, I'll tell you that. It's just a little bit in there. And that's fine. This is Light Fast 1. All of these are Light Fast 1 except for the Indigo, which is Light Fast 2. I'm just thinking that it's from that PV19, but we'll go into that here in a second. So the zinc white has a little less tinting strength than like a titanium white. So if you mix a zinc white with something, it gets a little bit of an opaque, kind of like a cloudiness, but it doesn't necessarily change the color as much as it would for, let's say, a titanium white would completely change the color and make that look a little bit more pastelish. But the zinc white is... So if you ever use white for mixing, that's how I use them. I have both, and I usually use them separately. They're not interchangeable in my book because of the way that I use them. If I just want it to be a little bit more opaque and sit on top, I might mix some watercolor with some zinc white to make it just look a little bit more on top. But if I want it to stand out on top and change the color and make it more pastel-y and more gouache-like, I use a titanium white. Now this transparent brown oxide, I don't have a color that looks like that on my palette at all. It's a beautiful orange color when it dries. That's an orange brown, very nice color. My standard palette, that is. I'm sure I have them in one of the other sets, but I don't have it on my standard palette. It's a very pretty color, and the way that it pops into the rest of the water there and just kind of takes over, that's a wonderful thing. All of these seem to do that. This is light, but even this one did it. This is the standard synthetic iron oxide red. and a lot of them would call this, but I guess it's a brown oxide because it's more yellow. It's more to the yellow side than to the red side, but it's okay. This is a beautiful color. Definitely good for as a muted palette. This whole palette is just a great palette. I think all the colors complement each other very well. You can use them all in any painting that you want. Put them all together, they work excellent. This Venetian red is probably one of my favorite colors that I've ever seen. I absolutely love how dark the mass tone is. I love the light part of it. I like how it turns over. It's a very easy gradation into it. It's just, I really like this color. And once again, you're dealing with the exact same synthetic iron oxide red that you are here. The difference is nothing. The difference is how they treat it and what they do to it. But if you look up the PR 101, and I'll put that link below again. So if you're looking for that link to check out all these pigments, I'll put that link down below in the description so you can look up any of the pigment. It's a great resource. I absolutely love this website. I'm on it quite a bit just to see if things are light fast, if they're toxic now. I was not thinking about that, but that's a good point. But this pigment here, it goes anywhere from a brown, like a brownish yellow, to like an orange, and then to a red, and it's a beautiful color. You can be a little bit violet. It's just strange. Which is what happened in here. It got a little bit of that. It's red, but it has like pink undertone. It's a beautiful color. If I'm going to compare it to that Indian red, let me pull this down a little bit. If I'm going to compare it to that Indian red, you see this has a little bit more violet in it. This has a little bit more red in it, but it's a beautiful color. Absolutely love it. I may end up putting that on my palette permanently. That's just a beautiful color. Okay, now let's look at this indigo. There's a Daniel Smith indigo. You see how it's a little bit more of a red blue. This is a little bit more leaning more towards a greenish. It's not a green blue, but it leans more green blue than the indigo. It's almost more like a Mayan dark blue, but it's a pretty color. I really enjoy it. I like it. It's one of the few indigos that I would probably use all the time as a dark blue. It's very nice and stormy. Lightfast 2 is not bad. So the Lightfast 1 is going to be like over 100 years. The Lightfast 2 is going to be 50 to 100 years. So that's in normal conditions. So that not direct sunlight. You put it in direct sunlight, a couple of months you don't have it anymore. That's how it is for all pigments. All pigments do that. Direct sunlight, you don't have it anymore after a while. You look at cars that have been around for a very long time, and they get faded too. And they're supposed to be the most light fast. Supposed to be used for direct sunlight in the desert. It still fades. So 2 is not bad. 50 to 100 years, I'm comfortable with that. So here you're looking at if you look at the pigments, you're looking at the phthalo blue-green shade. You're looking at the lamp black. And those make up the bulk of the color, but this, like I said, leans a little bit to the red side, which I'm not usually a fan of, but in this case, the darker blues, I tend to not mind it as much, so that's not bad. And you have that quinacridone violet, so it's adding a violet, not necessarily a red, which is more of a bluish red anyway, so all it's doing is compounding on the blue, so it's leaning still to the blue side. It's just making it a little bit darker. It's okay. It's a beautiful color. I like it. So this one, we're starting out with a phthalo green yellow shade. That's very interesting. I don't usually like that color at all. But if you put it next to the original, let me see if I can slide it down here. So you slide it next to the original Daniel Smith sap green. I like that color a lot more than I like this color, but they don't make that. No, that's the PO49. They don't have that anymore. That's the original PO49. That's the quinacridone gold, which the pigment is gone. It's just out of use anymore. They can't get it anymore. They don't have it anymore. So it looks a little bit different. I like this color a little bit more, but I could use this. It's not that far off. It looks very, very similar. I'm not usually a phthalo green yellow shade person, but I could definitely see using it there. Once again, I want you to look at this here. Does this color and this color and this color look anything alike? No, but they all have that PR 101 in there. It's just, that's how they do things. They use that color for everything. It's in everything. It must be extremely abundant, or they can make it very cheaply. And but it's a beautiful color, so I don't mind that. And then you have a nickel azo yellow, that PY150 there. Now, a lot of people don't like it. It does have the nickel in it. I understand that. Some people don't like that. Don't use that then. Find a different color. It's not a big deal. You can make your own sap greens. That's not a big deal. You can do that. Find a yellow that you like and find a green that you like, and just keep mixing it until you get to that rough color. You can do it. You can get there by yourself if you need to. And then we come to the raw umber, which is the brown iron oxide, the PBR7, and it's a beautiful pigment. It works wonderfully well. They put it in a lot of things. I'll show you a couple now. So now the EF brown iron oxide is a PBR6, so that's different. But if you go to the sepia, that has the, from Daniel Smith, these are Daniel Smith colors now. The PBR7, I might not have had that on the screen. So there's the EF brown iron oxide. You can see it's a little bit more to the reddish or to the brownish side. It's not as yellow as this, so or as muted as that. So, but in this PBR7 here, in this little faded spot, you can almost see this color in this color. It's very, very similar. They just add a little bit of black to it to make it a sepia. But is it sepia? I've heard people say sepia. It's not sepia, right? When you speak English, when you have the two vowels in the consonant in the middle, it's a long vowel. It's a long vowel sound, right? So it's sepia, not sepia. Or maybe if they add the I don't speak English very well, so don't worry about that. But overall, it's a great color. I'm glad that I have it now that I'm looking at that sepia. That's how I say it. I can definitely see. I have a different. This sepia here is just a different way to look at it. So you can see the black in it for sure, but you can see this color in here. You can absolutely see that. It's absolutely right there. And if I go back this way, you can see those colors together. That's the Mayan dark blue versus the indigo. They're very similar as well. As a matter of fact, I think I might like the indigo here. I'm going to say I like it a little bit better, but I might have to go back on that. Overall, I'm very happy with this palette. I think this is a great group of colors to try and use to create something, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do some kind of loose watercolor with it and just see if I can get something. I like the blooms, so I'm going to be looking to put some water down and have it pop a little bit. Let's see how that works. So just like I suspected, this is really fun to use wet on wet. So I started just spraying the page and putting some water down, and then I started putting some color in, and you see it immediately pop all over the page. Wonderful. And then you can go, and I did a lot of layers on this thing. You can go layer after layer and build up the color a little bit and do it. I know it's a little different from me because I was using wet paint in the pan. I wasn't using dried paint, but that's okay. Everything worked out just like I wanted. Well, I say that, but originally I was going to do some kind of landscape. This is the Earth set after all. I figured, hey, let me do some kind of, I guess, earthy kind of abstract landscape thing. And that just went right away to crap. I knew that that's not what this was going to turn into. And I figured, well, I'll tell you what, instead of that, why don't I create like this earth creature? And it kind of moves around the desert or something. But the thing is with this thing, it's got this weird, like instead of having like a camel hump on its back to have some extra fat on its body, it's just got these slime bubbles on the back. And it just keeps it completely lubricated so it doesn't dry out in the hot sun. And I don't know, I like making little creatures like this. It was very fun. And I just kept going in and changing things, and I didn't know. Someone commented, and they said, it seems like you know exactly what you're going to make when you make it. So that you just go, it's like a single flow of work, and you just end up where you're going to be. And I don't really understand, like I don't really know what it's going to be when I start. I swear to you, I do not know anything about what this is going to be when I start. The only thing that I really have in mind is a composition. I know what the basic shape I want it to be, the basic outline, but I don't know, it could have been an animal, it could have been a landscape, it could have been anything. It could have just been some abstract shapes. It didn't really matter to me. All I know is when I start, the only thing I think in my head is, what kind of composition do I want? Let me just start making shapes on the page that I want to have on the page. And then later I'll figure out what it is. And that's what I do. And I think some of you do that as well. And from what it sounded like, this person was doing that. So that's a wonderful thing. Now later I do go in with some pen and I put in some ink in this drawing, but I didn't want to do a lot of detail. I just wanted to do a hint of detail. So all of my lines, they're like broken lines, and then I developed a little area and then I see how I like it, and then I tried developing another little area and see how I like it, and I just keep going until I'm done. And I probably just went way too long. I was having fun with this one. Let me tell you that I love when you use an art supply that just sparks so much creativity that you just want to keep going with it. And I'm going to do, of course, I have to go back to these anyway, and I have to see how they act when they're completely dry, see if they're hard to re-wet or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure they're not. But I just want to make sure. And they were wonderful colors. I really enjoyed these. This is a great set if you're into muted colors and you want to do like just landscapes or anything else. Or you don't have to do landscape. I don't know why people say that. Like, this is the earth set, or you buy like a landscape set or something. But you can do whatever you want with it. Like, there's no way that what they thought of when they put this set together was creating an earth creature. But that's what I did. And so you can do whatever you want with the colors. This happens to be a palette that I really like. I usually do not like pre-made palettes. I'm one of those people that I need to replace everything in there, or at least some of the stuff in there, because I'm not happy with it. This is not the case with this palette. I could probably take these 6 colors and just use them exclusively for a very long time. I absolutely love them. I'm not going to do that because I don't ever stick to one thing for very long. But this is definitely going to be a palette that I use quite often, and I may stick it in a set and just take it with me traveling or something like that and do a little 6-color set. You can get every color that you really need. You can mix it if you want to. I struggle with that because sometimes I don't like to sit there mixing colors for hours and hours, and then what happens when you mix too little and then you go back, you're like, oh no, I want to add to that spot a little bit, and you try and mix the exact same color and it takes you forever to match it exactly, and you can't really tell because you're mixing wet paint, and when you go to put it on the page, it's dry and it's faded a little bit or it's changed color a little bit. You can't really tell like that. So you either mix too little, it always looks different, or you mix too much and now you've got a puddle of this color that you're not going to use on anything else, and you don't want to waste it, so you try and leave it there maybe for next time. But now you're out of room, especially if you're on a travel palette. You're out of room, you can't mix anywhere else. It's just a problem. So I'm not big into mix, but this palette is actually very easy to mix with. And what I did here was I just mixed on the page. I didn't sit there and try and mix off of the page. I just said, okay, let me put the paint on the page and just see whatever it does is fine with me. And that's another thing about the way that I do things. Sometimes I don't need to really mix any paint. I just can put it on the page, and if it mixes with another color that's on the page, let's just go with the flow. It doesn't really bother me. I'm fine with that. So I do want to hear, what do you think about these colors? What do you think about this palette? Is it something you think you would use? Is it something you don't? I'm not trying to make you want to buy everything. I'm just showing you all the different things that are out there so you can make an informed decision. That's all. I'm just trying to show it to you. I'm not saying you should definitely get this. Since this set came out, and I've said this before earlier in the video, but since the set came out, I have wanted to try it. I've always wanted to try QOR paints, and I've really wanted, once they came out with this set, I had my mind set on it. This is what I was going to get. But it has been out for years, and I've never picked it up. Of all the other things I picked up, I've never grabbed this, and I don't know why. I saw it, and I said, oh, that's right, I wanted that. This is something that, It doesn't matter what it is or even how good the quality is. These are very good quality paints. There's nothing wrong with it. They say, oh, we use this in archival restorations and all this other stuff. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't understand why someone would use this paint in archival restoration and not a different color paint in archival restoration. Why would you use this one and not M. Graham or Daniel Smith or Schminke or any of the other ones? Instead, you're going to use QOR, which is relatively new, which has a new binder that no one else uses. I don't know why you'd use that in some kind of ancient archival whatever. There's some artwork that's all beat up and you're going to try and restore it with this stuff when not it's the newest kid on the block and you're going to try and do that. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's good paint. I would use it for anything, but I'm just saying I don't understand why they said that when they first came out. These are archival. We use this for archival paintings that need to be restored. And don't worry, whatever. Anyway, everything's marketing. With every company, everything is marketing. They just try and get you to see something. Now, let me tell you about this though. The Aquazol that's in here is that may be a marketing thing, but it's real. Every color in this set pops across the page. Every single one, you put a little bit of water down, you just put a dot in, it spreads across the whole thing. It immediately shoots across. I've seen that with a lot of colors in other sets, but not with every color. It's usually one or two colors that they take over more than the other colors. But you see, when I put these colors wet into wet, not one of them really took over another color. It's just that the newer color that I put down spread into the older color. And if I put down the older color again, it would spread back into the other color. It just spreads like crazy, and it's something I really enjoy about these paints. All right, now we're going to get a little off topic. I just want to ask you a question here. Have you ever passed something every single day and you've never noticed it? And then one day you look up and you see it? I was driving the other day, and it's the same corner of the same road that I travel on every single day. And it's not, there's this small little brick structure with a little plaque on it. I don't even know what it says. I thought someone, maybe, it's like, I didn't think, maybe it was a tombstone or something. I don't know. It wasn't. But I never even paid attention to it. And then the guy I work with, he said that it's been there ever since he went to work. He's been there for 40 years. So it's been there forever, but I've just never noticed it. And I just noticed it, and now every time I pass by it, I see it, and I'm like, I can't believe I never noticed that thing was there. I know our memories are not accurate. I know your ego protects you from things, all that stuff, but what purpose would it be for my mind to hold this from me? I try and be observant. When I drive to work, when I have to stop at a light or whatever, I look around. I try and pay attention to what's around me, see what's around, what's going on. I enjoy the mornings, which that'll come to another. We're going to talk about another thing here in a second, but I enjoy mornings, and I enjoy the sun's coming up and the birds are flying around. They're a little bit more active in the morning, and I try to enjoy that on my way to work. I try not to be just in my bubble where I'm just thinking about work the whole time. It's not healthy, and so I try and I'm traveling, and I was like, okay, this looks good over here. I like this. Oh, look at these trees over here. Whatever. There's a different kind of tree. I wonder what kind of tree that is. And this is it. But this one thing, it just took me by surprise that I did not pay attention to it. I didn't notice it. I passed by it every day, and it was brand new to me. It was like I just opened up a Christmas present. But I want to know, does that happen to you? Do you all of a sudden notice things that have been there forever? Have you ever done that in your house? Have you ever you've seen that same wall 150,000 times, but today you happen to look up in the corner and you notice that there's like maybe a speck that was not covered in paint or something? You're like, wait a minute, was that always there? And now it bothers you. Every time you walk past it, you're going to see that little speck that they had no paint on it or whatever. Just those kinds of things that just baffles me why we don't. And I try and pay attention to everything around me. That's what really gets me. I try to pay attention to everything and look at things and take the time to enjoy things. And nope, I just missed it. It was always there. I never saw it. I don't know. Let me know if that happens to you. And that brings me to the next thing. Now, let's talk about schedules here for a minute. I hate Monday mornings. Now, I don't hate Monday mornings because it's Monday morning and it's the start of a work week or anything like that. That's not why I hate Monday mornings. I hate Monday mornings because it's the one day where everybody thinks that you took it easy on the weekend, you didn't do anything, you just sat on your couch eating potato chips, and so now you better be ready to hit the ground running and work as fast as and hard as you can, and you better get as much done in the morning as you would in a normal week. And it's just like this big rush in the morning on Monday that everybody's like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. And that just drives me insane. Why can't it be just like every other day? You come in, you do what you have to do, you do it efficiently and quickly, just like every other day, but you don't have to like feel like someone's slamming you in the back of the head with a baseball bat or something while you're trying to work. And then you push all week like that anyway. And then you get to Friday and you think, oh, maybe I'll have an easy Friday. No, that's not going to happen. You're going to have just as aggravating of a Friday. Jobs try and do weird things to make things fun on Friday. Oh, it's relaxed Friday. Nobody has to wear, any like business attire in the office or whatever. You're still doing everything the same. It doesn't actually help that now you're rushing around. Instead of a pair of slacks or something, you're rushing around in a pair of jeans. What's the difference? You're still rushing around. You're still doing things. It doesn't make anything fun. People think, oh, that's going to be fun. Let's have fun. It's not fun. But let me tell you my daily schedule. If I had my dream schedule, and I was thinking about this the other day because I'm thinking, I do really love the mornings, but I never really see them on the weekends. Because like right now, it's 1:30 in the morning, I'm recording this, and I know I'm going to be going until about 3 o'clock editing things and doing things, 3, 4 o'clock, somewhere around there. And then I'm going to go to sleep. I'm not going to get up right away at 5 o'clock in the morning. I just went to sleep. I'm not going to do that. So, but I love the mornings. I would love to be able to go to sleep early and then wake up in the morning early and go outside and listen to get a cup of coffee, go sit on the back porch and listen to the birds chirp and watch the sun come up. If it was my choice, every single day I would be outside as the sun came up, watching it come up. I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of the day. I absolutely love it. And I'm not a morning person, but it's only because I can't be. I have a hard time getting up in the morning, but if I went to bed at a decent hour, I probably would. The thing is, I work on other things at night, so I usually end up going to sleep late, and then I hate getting up in the morning. But if I went to sleep at a decent hour, I could probably get up early in the morning and go out and enjoy that. I would watch every sunrise and every sunset. That would be my ideal schedule. I don't care if I get up, go outside, do that. I'll go outside with the dog and a cup of coffee and watch the sun come up, enjoy the birds chirping a little bit, get some nice, beautiful sky action happening, and then I'd go and work the rest of the day, just normal. And if I'm being honest here, right around lunchtime, I might take a little nap. I like afternoon naps; those are wonderful things. But I'd probably do it. I'd get like a little. Maybe I'd do it outside. Who knows? Just sit outside in a little rocking chair and just take a little nap. That's wonderful, as long as it's not too hot or cold. Well, if it's cold out, I don't mind. I'll just wrap myself in a big blanket. But if it's too hot out, that kind of bothers me. I don't like being out in the big heat. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'd do that, then I'd come in, you work for a while, take a little afternoon nap, get up, have some lunch, and go right back to work until it's time to watch the sun go down or eat dinner, whichever comes first, depending on what time of season you're in or whatever, and then do the other one. And then go back to work. I don't even care how many hours I work. I don't want to sit on the couch all day doing nothing. I want to work. I enjoy working. I enjoy doing things. So as long as it's something I like doing. But the point is, my schedule is just not at all what I want it to be. Right now, even when I go to work, we get up pretty early. The alarm goes off at like 5 o'clock in the morning. But there's no way I can get out of bed at that time. I might pop my head up, I'll go feed the dog, and then I sit back on the couch and I usually pass out for another half hour. But that's just me. That's just how but it's because the night before I was working so late. If I could not do that, I'd probably be fine in the morning. But I don't think you have to. You hear those people, they always say, oh, the best way to be productive in life, you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think that's absolute garbage. That has nothing to do with it. It's just what I enjoy. I enjoy the morning, going out before anything has gotten started in the day and just watching the world come to life that day. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. And then I like watching the sun go down. I also like to be awake when no one else is awake. So I also like at night when I'm working and things like this time it's 1:30 in the morning. I'll go outside and sit in the back porch then. I have there's a road behind me. Once in a while a car will go by, and sometimes the neighbors have their dog barking or something or whatever, and that doesn't bother me at all. I don't mind that at all. I enjoy the night as well. I just like the times of days where either everything is just coming up or things are just like settled down and everything's gone away. I don't like the middle part of the day. The part where everybody's just rushing around like lunatics, that's the part of the day I don't enjoy as much. But then, and I don't mind, that's when I'll work. I'll work during that part of the day when everybody else is running around. I'll stay to myself and I'll do what I have to do. And then I'll just go back to enjoying the day again. I want to know, what's your schedule? What's your favorite schedule? If you had anything that you could be doing at any time, you let me know. What would be your favorite schedule? Some of you are retired and you may be able to live whatever schedule you want to live. Matter of fact, a lot of you on this channel that watch this channel, a very big majority of you, probably more than 50% of you, are probably close to retired or retired. And so you can do whatever you want. Let me know what you do. What do you like to do? A lot of people, once they retire, they like to get up early in the morning. There's a gentleman I work with. He works part-time now. He's basically retired. And he's partially retired anyway. But he comes into work to help me. He just comes to be an advisor and figure things out and help things. So, and I appreciate him. But he wakes up, he's outside 5 o'clock in the morning with his cup of coffee. And then he comes in whenever he feels like coming in, and he leaves whenever he feels like leaving. And he goes and enjoys his day. And that's a wonderful way to live, I think. You can work when you want to work. You don't work when you don't want to work. You make sure you put in the hours. You're productive. You get done what you need to do, but you don't have an actual time you have to do it in. That's a wonderful way to live. That has nothing to do with this drawing. I just want to say one last thing about this drawing. As much as I was so confused about what I was doing and I just kept adding a little bit more paint, the one thing I wish I probably would have done is make it a little bit more, add a little bit more contrast in the color. Not in the black and white part, but in the color. Just add a little bit more like full strength paint in certain areas. That's something that I wish I would have done a little bit more. You live and learn. This was just something I was just having fun with. And I was experimenting with the paint itself and seeing it's very easy to re-wet. Even once it's on the page, you're very easy to blend and move around. It was wonderful. Alright, so thumb up the video if you are going to maybe look at these QOR watercolor paints and see if maybe there's something that you're interested in. I know I'm not going to... Don't cook with it. Don't do that. I showed you what happened when you do with it with the other one. The other video is just not a good idea to do that, but everything else that you want to do with it, you can do with it, and it's a wonderful paint. And I like this little guy that popped up on this little sand hill or whatever. I think he's pretty cool. I like him. I don't know what he's called. Why don't you name him? You tell me what his name is, but what kind of thing it is. He's like a blorb or something like that, so I don't know what he is, but you decide what the name is and let me know. I think he's just he's a cool little guy. I'm glad I brought him into existence. I hope he's happy that I brought him into existence. He's just kind of hanging out on the sand, so I don't know if he is. He's got slime on his back, but I mean, there's not. You don't know that that's not enjoyable. You have no idea. All right. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.